Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're taking a hard, risk-oriented look at a major pillar of your corporate governance, the internal audit. Usually, this is seen as a heavy, fixed cost, just a massive drain on resources. But the research from S+P Compliance Services actually flips that entirely on its head. In this explainer, we're going to see exactly how outsourcing this to top-tier experts turns what's usually a regulatory burden into your ultimate competitive advantage.
Here's our roadmap for today. First up, we'll look at the core problem, then the solution. After that, we'll break down the 4 pillars of value, dive into verified security, and finally, chart the actual path to outsourcing.
Let's start with part 1, the problem, rising regulatory demands. So we are seeing some severe friction right now in the industry. On one hand, internal capacity is just tapped out. Hiring and training specialized talent is incredibly expensive and, frankly, exhausting. But on the other hand, there's this absolute tidal wave of complex regulations piling up. We're talking about rigorous German banking standards like MaRisk, the European Banking Authority guidelines, and of course the new DORA requirements for sweeping digital and IT resilience. Trying to juggle these massive frameworks internally, it's just a major operational bottleneck these days.
Just think about the sheer weight of these obligations. You've got comprehensive annual plans, meticulous risk classifications, complex methodology checks, and mandatory management approvals. And here's the really scary part. Missing just one of these steps doesn't just mean a slap on the wrist from regulators anymore. No way. The regulatory blowback now falls squarely on management's personal liability. It's literally a minefield out there.
Which brings us to part 2, the solution, the third line of defense.
So the crucial point is that we need a paradigm shift. By outsourcing your internal audit to external experts like S+P Compliance Services, you're essentially installing an independent, objective, and completely incorruptible early warning system. Because they sit entirely outside your internal corporate politics and that daily operational stress, these specialized auditors act as your ultimate protective shield against regulatory risks. They catch potential weaknesses long before they ever become supervisory issues.
Moving right along to part 3, the 4 pillars of value. The benefits of this approach really break down into 4 core pillars: cost transparency, efficiency, liability limitation, and professionalization. Let's take a quick look at exactly how each of these impacts your bottom line and your overall risk profile.
First up is cost transparency. Now, in-house audits mean rigid, massive, fixed costs whether you're actively auditing a lot that quarter or not. Outsourcing completely flips this to scalable costs. You get to totally bypass the brutal expense of headhunting and retaining those niche compliance experts. Instead, you're only paying for the exact resources you need, exactly when you need them. And that gives management true financial predictability, which is huge.
The second pillar is efficiency. Look, we all know the pain of an annual audit, right? It can bring daily operations to a grinding halt, literally pulling your absolute best people away from their actual jobs. While outsourcing lifts that heavy burden entirely. Your internal teams actually get their time back so they can focus on your core business without the constant, looming distraction of audit preparations.
Third is liability limitation. And this brilliantly illustrates the real value here, because as an executive, minimizing personal liability is what keeps you up at night. External specialists act as a dedicated, highly trained protective shield between your operations and the regulators. They're the ones who take on the burden of tracking the constantly shifting legal landscape. That effectively secures your compliance and, most importantly, avoids potential legal consequences for the board.
Finally, we have professionalization. If you only audit internally, you're kind of limited by the echo chamber of your own 4 walls. Outsourcing instantly unlocks access to best practice methodologies gathered from across the entire financial sector. It's basically an objective set of eyes finding blind spots you didn't even know you had. And they provide tested recommendations for optimizing your entire corporate governance framework.
Let's jump into part 4. Verified security and quality.
Now, trust is great, but trust isn't enough. You need hard evidence, especially when it comes to your DORA information register. S+P actually operates under IDW PS 951 for highly effective audit-proof control systems, and they hold the ISAE 3402, which is absolutely the undisputed international gold standard for outsourcing providers. Add in ISO certifications for both information security and reliable data processing, and you've got institutional-grade defense right there.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer breadth of expertise required today. It's staggering.
Whether you're a traditional credit institution, a FinTech scaling under KWG banking or ZAG payment service licenses, or even a cutting-edge crypto custody firm, the regulatory scrutiny is incredibly niche. But S+ has developed targeted expertise across this entire spectrum, which means they already speak your specific regulatory language from day one.
Furthermore, partnering with a comprehensive firm provides a real one-stop shopping experience. Beyond just the internal audits, this whole thing can scale flexibly based on what you need. It can range from simple ongoing regulatory monitoring, so you literally never miss a legal update, all the way to the implementation of entire compliance management systems. This kind of holistic approach is what ensures sustainable, long-term relief for your internal organization.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, the path to outsourcing.
Let's see how this builds out. Because moving to an external partner might seem a bit daunting at first, but it's actually a super simple 3-step process. Step 1 is the inquiry, just a direct conversation mapping out your very specific compliance challenges. Step 2 is the offer. You get a tailor-made, flexible service package designed specifically for your sector. And step 3 is the contract, ensuring completely seamless integration into your existing daily operational processes. Easy as that.
Which leaves us with this final, absolutely critical question for you to consider. Is your current internal audit strategy truly audit-proof and risk-optimized? Or is it just this growing fixed cost that still leaves you exposed to regulatory blowback? If there is even a shadow of a doubt in your mind, it might be time to challenge the status quo. The logical next step here is to request an audit readiness check with S+P Compliance Services to see exactly how an external third line of defense can fortify your institution. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and we'll see you next time.